Hey guys, Danny here from Spinal Strength. For those who don't know me, I'm 28. I live in Australia and I had a C6 complete or Asia A spinal cord injury in 2018, probably around 3.5 years ago now. And so basically I wanted to do this video last year where I sort of let everyone follow along with my progress through like a muscle gaining phase and talk about exactly what I was going to do. And unfortunately, I had a bad reaction to some Botox injections and basically lost all my strength it took me around 6 months to get back to where I was. And by that time, it was summer and I struggled to bulk up in summer because the heat just kills me. I'm not quite back to square one, but back to where I was this time last year and ready to try and put some muscle on. So when I was able-bodied, I was very much into the gym. I was in pretty decent shape and, that knowledge has served me pretty well. My mantra from day one since I first had my injury has just been that I would get my independence back through being as strong as possible. Like, obviously there's technique involved as well, but stronger people are just generally more useful people. You can help yourself out more when you're stronger. So, look, I'll put up some photos here. I'll walk you through sort of my journey so far and then we can move on. So this was where I was at probably 3 weeks before my injury, sitting around 93, 94 kilos here, I think. It was the biggest I'd ever been. Not overly lean, but as you can see, there's a decent potential for building muscle there. This was me around 6 months after my injury. I had a pressure sore after I got back from Japan and I was basically stuck in bed for that entire time. So I was down around 60 kilos here, so a loss of around 35 kilos. So while I was in hospital, I was put on a high calorie diet to try and prevent muscle loss, and this was sort of the eventual result. I just ended up getting really insensitive to insulin and just got fat. So it's taken me about 18 months to get to this point, and this is around where I am now. So as you can see, reasonably lean, a little bit of muscle mass there, but I know that there's the potential for more. So let's hope I'm right. So there are three main components to any decent exercise program, really, whether you're trying to gain muscle or lose fat. And number one is diet. Diet's pretty much always number one. Especially when you got a spinal cord injury, it's even harder to out-train a bad diet. And then you've got your exercise or training program, and then rest and recovery. So that's when the growth actually happens. Basically, you're going to be training, which will break down the muscle, requiring repair. You eat a sufficient amount to repair it, and the repair happens while you're resting. So I'll cover my plan for these in a bit more detail. So for diet, I've just spent probably the last 2 months getting my diet balanced for my bowel program to a point where I'm actually starting to be happy with it for the first time since my injury. So I really don't want to fuck with it that much. So what I'll be doing is, instead of drastically changing the volume of food I'm eating, I'm just going to add in more calorie dense foods. So at the moment, my breakfast is basically yogurt with a couple of tablespoons of flax meal, a scoop of protein powder, and a couple of blueberries. I'll keep that the same the whole way through. There's a lot of fiber in there, and that's really helped with managing neurogenic bowel. My second meal is a shake. That's my pre-workout meal. So at the moment, that's just a banana, half a cup of blueberries, a scoop of protein, and it's just in water. And the majority of the calories that I add will be in this shake. So I'll start out by adding just some milk, and then probably some peanut butter, then maybe an extra scoop of protein, and sort of just keep adding little bits, probably around 100 calories every couple of weeks until I get to a point where I'm happy with what I'm gaining. Because with a spinal cord injury, it's important to remember that your calorie needs are lower than when you're able-bodied, because there's less muscles doing the work, right? So that sort of carries over to losing weight, but also to gaining muscle, because when you're working out, you can only sort of tear down the muscles that you have control over. So my legs aren't going to be doing any growing, my abs won't be doing any growing. Like, I'm literally just trying to grow my shoulders, traps, upper back, biceps, forearms, and that's literally about it. So while a lot of people classically for able-bodied trainees would recommend a 500 calorie surplus or so, which may even be excessive for them, but for us with a neurological condition, you really don't need that big of a surplus. You're just going to end up getting fat. So that's something I'll be keeping a very close eye on, and yeah, I'll be increasing my calories very gradually. And the other thing is, because I don't have however many thousands it is to buy a hospital scale to actually weigh myself every week, so I'm going to be going by what I see in the mirror, but also the volume and strength gains I see in the gym. So it's a bit more guesswork, but it's a reasonable guess that if you're getting stronger, you're probably in a surplus. Like, for the last 4 months, I've basically maintained my strength, and I know I'm at maintenance at around 1800 calories. So by the end of this will probably be a 20 to 24 week process, depending on how things go. I'll basically just stop when I get to a level of body fat that I'm unhappy with. So I'll maybe end up on around 2500 calories by the end of that, which isn't huge. Like, I used to cut on that amount of calories. Like, I used to lose weight on that, but now that's because of the lower motor activity, a load of lower muscle activity. It's enough to bulk on. And yeah, so then post-workout meal is just an omelette with some bacon and some vegetables in it. Just use egg whites, not whole eggs. And then dinner's just going to be some chicken thigh with some vegetables. So they basically stay the same for me year round, and that'll be the plan moving forward, because I've found a diet that works really well for me. I'll just modulate the amount of calories I'm taking in through my shake. Try and get as many of them as liquid as possible, as many calories as liquid as possible. And then for training, look, the science isn't all that clear here. Well, there's not even really any science. I can't find a single study that's been done on how to gain muscle mass in a quadriplegic, like the ideal training mechanisms. It's not really there. So I'll be treating this as a little bit of an experiment. I'll be playing around with a few different variables, but I will put my program right here. We'll have a look, and I'll sort of run you through it. So as you can see, it's a pretty basic push-pull split. So the rotation will basically go A, C, B, D, A, C, B, D, and just repeat. So it'll be Sundays, we'll be off, and I'll basically go through a whole rotation once every 2 weeks. So you'll probably notice that the workouts aren't really that different. So the pull downs I've got for 6 sets, because I'm sort of lagging in the back department, because it's only recently that I've been able to train my back independently. So I'm going to start out with 6 sets and see how it goes. But yeah, so basically I've got rep ranges of 8 to 12 and 15 to 20. So from what I can gather, there's so much conflicting fucking evidence around muscle building, it's ridiculous, and a lot of it really just ends up being personal opinion and what works for individuals. But what I'll be doing is workouts A and C will be a heavier type workout, and B and D will be lighter. Now, that's not to say the effort will be any different. It's just that pull downs, 8 sets, 12, may be very fatiguing for me. I don't want to be loading the joints up, because while I have motor grade 5 biceps, I I don't really have the motor grade in my lats to keep them locked into place while I'm doing pull downs. So I don't want to be doing heavy pull downs all the time and risk dislocating a shoulder or something like that. So I'll do 8 to 12 on one session and then 15 to 20 on the other. And the other thing as well is with the higher reps, obviously, although I'm mostly going for strength, there is some neurological type better outcomes from doing higher reps, just because it's practicing and you're recruiting those motor units, resting them, recruiting, resting. So I'm hoping that I may be able to get some sort of neurological improvement as well from this. It'll only be minor, like I'm not expecting to fucking walk again or anything after this, but that's sort of just the reasoning behind the different reps. And then you'll see as well there's BFR for curls, and that's just blood flow restriction. So for us with neurological injuries, it can be hard to max out the particular muscle we're trying to train right, because when I was training when I was able-bodied, say I was doing dips and my shoulders might have been good for 20 dips, triceps would have been good for around 15, and so you capped at 15 reps. Whereas with a neurological injury like myself, my triceps are basically non-existent. Hang on. So my shoulders may be capable of doing a lot more dips than my triceps are. So triceps are the limiting factor. However, so for curls, the limiting factor isn't my biceps, it's balance. It's forearm, so I don't have any abs, I don't have any obliques to keep me steady, so I can't apply the load to my biceps that they can actually handle. I can only apply the load to my biceps that the rest of my body will allow it to handle. So if that makes sense. So what blood flow restriction does is basically lets you apply a bit more tension than you otherwise would be able to. That's all. So I've been doing it for around a month so far, and it's really hard to say so far because a month's really not that long. But I'll keep it up through this whole process and see how it goes, and I'll give you guys some feedback on that. So I've kept the exercise selection pretty minimal. You can see it's literally pull downs, curls, rear delt pulls, dips, chest press, lateral raise. And the reason for that is because, well, one, they're the ones that I can do independently very easily, which is, well, I don't really need any more reasoning than that. They're the ones I can fucking do. But then above and beyond, they're sort of, you got pull downs are a decent compound movement. Same with dips, same with chest press, shoulder press, yes, as well, not to as much of an extent. But basically, I'm focusing on exercises that give me the most bang for my buck, really. Traditionally with weight training, there are 3 factors that normally get modified to increase total mechanical tension. So basically have intensity, which is a heavy, like the actual weight of what you're lifting, you can increase that. There's volume, so you can increase the reps, and then there's frequency, so you can change how often or how frequent you train. So as quadriplegic, intensity is sort of off the table. To an extent, it's definitely the least productive way to increase tension because, like I was saying before, you're very much limited by the supporting musculature and not the actual muscle yourself. So with dips, I can do 5 sets 10 at 40 kilos, but if I go to 45, I might only be able to do like 2 or 3 reps because my triceps are given out before my shoulders are. So it's not really an effective way to load the shoulders. So what I'll be doing instead is aiming for volume and frequency, bearing in mind that after a certain amount of volume in any given training day, you sort of get diminishing returns. So what I mean by that is your first set you do might give you 100% return on muscle growth. Your second set might be 80, third set might be 60, and then you get to a point where it's just not worth doing any more sets, and there's even apparently a negative effect. So if you overtrain in a session, it's a negative effect on muscle protein synthesis. So that's why I've sort of got it capped at 5 and 6 sets as well. And then all I'll be doing to increase volume is trying to push the reps up each week. And yeah, I'll be training 6 times a week and just trying to push the reps up. Basically, that's how I'll go. And then when the reps actually do get to that upper end, so say if I start pull downs and I can do 8 reps, and then it gets to a point after a few sessions where I can do 12, then I will bump the weight up. But the other part of it is that it's probably going to have to be micro loading, because like I said, that neurological limitation kicks in before your muscular limitations do. So you can't move up as fast in weight as I would like, or as any of us would like. So the next factor is recovery. So this is when the muscles are actually going to do the growing. This is the important part. So for anyone who follows me on Instagram, you probably saw my reel about melatonin the other night. So that's very important in someone with a spinal cord injury, because your pineal gland actually mostly stops producing it after you have a spinal cord injury, depending on the severity and the level, of course. But for someone like myself, C6 Asia A, my pineal gland produces basically no melatonin, which means my body doesn't know when it's time to go to sleep, and that just leads to really shitty rest. So I'll be practicing other sleep hygiene practices. So no caffeine after probably 2 p.m, no blue light after 10 o'clock, no TV while I'm sleeping, all that sort of thing, to just try and optimize my rest. I'm a person, not a lot gets to me unless I'm tired. I get really cranky really fucking quick if I'm sleepy, but probably around 7 to 8 hours is optimal for me. That's when I feel best rested. It's going to be different for everyone, but rest is definitely the most important. Well, this turned out to be a lot fucking longer than I thought it would. So sorry guys if I dribbled shit or carried on a bit. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any questions, if I can help you out, just drop it in the comments. Follow me on Instagram at Danny25, and I'm happy to help you out. I'm not a guru. I'm not going to try and charge you for coaching or anything, because I'm trying to figure it out at the moment as well. I know what worked when I was able-bodied, and it's completely fucking different now. So I'm still trying to figure it out. But if I can help you, then yeah, let me know. And thanks for listening.